Why does life reward the ruthless? Why do the most selfish, manipulative, and morally bankrupt people seem to climb to the top while those who live with integrity are left behind? You've seen it yourself. The cutthroat CEO who crushes competitors, the corrupt politician who gains more influence, the toxic friend who somehow commands admiration. Meanwhile, the kind, honest, and hardworking people struggle to get ahead. Why? Most of us are raised to believe that good people win in the end. We are taught that if you work hard, play fair, and treat others with respect, life will reward you. But what if that's a lie? What if success has nothing to do with morality and everything to do with strength? Schopenhauer believed that life is not governed by fairness, it is governed by power. He argued that the will to live, the blind, relentless force that drives human existence, favors those who act with dominance, not kindness. The person who hesitates, who considers the moral consequences of their actions, gives up an advantage. The person who strikes first, takes risks, and manipulates others without guilt. That is the person who secures power. But if that's true, does it mean that morality is weakness? Should we abandon integrity and become ruthless to survive? Or is there a way to succeed without sacrificing our values? Schopenhauer believed that the answer lies not in becoming ruthless, but in understanding the nature of power itself. To thrive in a world that rewards dominance, you must learn to separate morality from strategy. You don't need to become ruthless. You need to stop playing by rules that others aren't following. Let's break it down. Success is not a reward for morality. It's a reward for dominance. Schopenhauer believed that the world does not operate according to principles of fairness or justice. Life is not designed to reward good behavior or punish wrongdoing. It simply reflects the brutal reality of survival and dominance. The person who acts with confidence, aggression, and strategic precision is more likely to thrive than the person who waits for life to recognize their virtue. Schopenhauer argued that human existence is driven by the will to live, a blind, irrational force that compels all living beings to seek survival and reproduction. This force does not care about fairness or morality. It cares about power. In the natural world, strength and adaptability determine survival. The predator thrives because it acts without hesitation or remorse. The prey dies because it hesitates. This dynamic doesn't disappear in human society. It just takes on more complex forms. The corporate executive who manipulates competitors, the politician who exploits public trust, the social climber who deceives to gain influence. They all succeed because they understand the hidden structure of power. Ruthlessness works not because the world is broken, but because it reflects the primal nature of existence itself. The person who seizes control, manipulates perception, and exploits weakness secures influence. The person who waits for justice or recognition is left behind. Schopenhauer believed that morality often conflicts with survival instincts. Compassion, fairness, and integrity introduce hesitation into decision-making. The person who questions whether an action is morally right wastes time that the ruthless person uses to strike. Success is not about fairness. It's about decisiveness. The person who is willing to act without hesitation, to take advantage of opportunities without guilt, and to dominate others without fear of consequences will always rise higher. Schopenhauer's brutal truth is this: power rewards those who take it, not those who deserve it. Schopenhauer believed that strength and morality are not just separate forces. They are often in direct conflict. Strength is about action, dominance, and survival. Morality, on the other hand, is about restraint, compassion, and fairness. In a world governed by the will to live, a blind force that favors survival and dominance, strength is rewarded, while morality becomes a liability. A strong person acts. They make decisions without hesitation, pursue their goals without guilt, and secure power without seeking approval. They are not weighed down by moral conflict or emotional sensitivity. They understand that life is not a fair competition. It's a brutal fight for dominance. The moment you hesitate to consider whether an action is ethical, you give power to someone who doesn't care. Schopenhauer saw this dynamic not as a flaw of human nature, but as a reflection of life's fundamental structure. Moral people, on the other hand, tend to hesitate. They weigh decisions carefully, considering the impact on others. They seek fairness, cooperation, and consensus. But in a competitive environment, this creates vulnerability. The person who pauses to consider the moral consequences of their actions loses time and leverage. The person who strikes first, without hesitation, controls the narrative. Strength does not seek approval. It imposes itself. This is why the most ruthless individuals often thrive in positions of power. They are not bound by the emotional burden of guilt or the desire to protect others. They see morality as a weakness, a limitation that prevents others from securing control. Schopenhauer argued that this is why strength and morality rarely coexist. Success demands clarity and decisiveness. The strong person acts. The moral person questions. And in a world governed by dominance, questioning is the fastest path to weakness. Most people are raised to believe that life is fair, that if you work hard, play by the rules, and treat others with respect, you will eventually be rewarded. Schools, religions, and social institutions reinforce this idea, teaching that virtue leads to success and wrongdoing leads to punishment. Schopenhauer saw this belief not as a reflection of reality, but as a comforting illusion, an idea invented to create social order, not to describe how life actually works. In nature, there is no fairness. The lion that hunts the weakest gazelle is not acting unfairly. It is simply surviving. The gazelle that hesitates becomes prey, regardless of how moral or deserving it might be. Human society operates under the same brutal logic. Power does not flow toward those who are virtuous. It flows toward those who understand how to seize and control it. The idea that the good guy wins in the end is not supported by history or human nature. It's a story designed to pacify people, to make them easier to govern and control. Schopenhauer believed that fairness is a psychological coping mechanism, a way to make sense of the harshness of life. It's easier to believe that hard work and honesty will eventually lead to success than to face the truth. Life is chaotic. Success is not guaranteed, and those who play by the rules are often left behind by those who break them. The world does not operate on justice. It operates on strength, strategy, and adaptability. This is why ruthless individuals often thrive. They are not burdened by the illusion of fairness. They do not expect life to reward their virtue. They understand that power is not given. It is taken. And while moral people wait for recognition, the ruthless are already 3 steps ahead, shaping the outcome to their advantage. Ruthlessness is not a flaw. It's an evolutionary advantage. Schopenhauer believed that human nature is not built on cooperation and fairness, but on survival, and dominance. Those who rise to power are rarely the most moral. They are the most strategic. Ruthlessness works not because it is cruel, but because it bypasses the hesitation and emotional conflict that weaken others. A ruthless person makes decisions quickly and without moral conflict. They are not slowed down by guilt or empathy. If betraying someone creates an advantage, they betray without hesitation. If manipulating a situation secures more control, they manipulate without remorse. Ruthlessness creates power because it allows the individual to act with speed and clarity while others hesitate. Schopenhauer saw this as a reflection of the will to live. The will does not care about morality. It cares about survival and strength. In a competitive environment, hesitation is weakness. The person who dominates the room, controls the narrative, and takes action first holds the advantage. Ruthless individuals secure power because they understand this dynamic. They do not wait for permission or moral validation. They act. And in doing so, they force others to adapt to their lead. But ruthlessness is not just about taking action. It's about strategic detachment. A ruthless person understands that emotional involvement weakens control. They remain calm when others are emotional, detached when others are vulnerable. They anticipate moves and weaknesses in others while protecting their own position. They don't just strike first. They strike where it hurts the most. This is why the ruthless thrive in business, politics, and social dynamics. They understand the hidden structure of power. They see hesitation as a vulnerability to exploit, and morality as a strategic disadvantage. Power is not given to the most deserving. It is secured by those who are willing to take it. And those who hesitate to strike often find themselves at the mercy of those who don't. Schopenhauer believed that good people are often disadvantaged not because they lack intelligence or capability, but because their morality creates hesitation. A moral person considers the impact of their decisions on others. They think before they act, weigh the consequences, and question whether their actions are ethical. But in a world where dominance and power define success, this hesitation becomes a weakness that others exploit. Good people tend to assume that others are guided by the same moral principles they follow. They believe that honesty, fairness, and integrity will be recognized and rewarded. But the ruthless see this as an opportunity. A person who operates with integrity is predictable. Their hesitation and emotional sensitivity make them easy to manipulate. The ruthless person knows that the moral person will avoid confrontation, hesitate to betray, and struggle with decisions that require aggression. This creates a power imbalance. Schopenhauer saw human interaction as a struggle for dominance, not because people are inherently cruel, but because the will to live drives them to secure survival and influence. A moral person often resists this dynamic. They prioritize cooperation over competition, connection over control. But the ruthless person thrives on competition. They anticipate the hesitation of moral individuals and use it to their advantage. While the moral person questions whether they should take a step forward, the ruthless person has already taken control of the situation. This is why good people often feel used or betrayed. Their willingness to trust others, to give people the benefit of the doubt, leaves them vulnerable. Schopenhauer believed that moral individuals are often left behind, not because they lack strength, but because they expect life to operate according to moral principles. The ruthless, however, understand the truth. Life rewards strategy, not fairness. And those who hesitate to act are left behind by those who don't. Schopenhauer believed that while ruthlessness may lead to success, it rarely leads to peace. The person who builds their life on dominance and manipulation secures power, but at a hidden cost. Success gained through ruthlessness creates external control, but internal emptiness. The more a person relies on deception, force, and emotional detachment, the further they drift from genuine connection and meaning. Ruthlessness demands constant maintenance. Power gained through manipulation must be defended through manipulation. The person who lies to rise to the top must continue lying to stay there. The person who dominates through fear must constantly suppress rebellion. Success becomes a fragile structure, held together by constant vigilance and calculated aggression. And this creates a deep psychological toll. Schopenhauer argued that the will to live drives us toward dominance, but it also ensures that satisfaction is temporary. The person who builds their life on power will eventually face the realization that control does not create peace. It creates anxiety. Isolation is another inevitable consequence. The ruthless person gains power by exploiting the trust and vulnerability of others. But this creates a barrier between them and genuine human connection. The people around them become tools, not allies. Relationships are built on strategy, not trust. The ruthless person becomes surrounded by people who fear them, not people who understand them. Schopenhauer saw this as a natural consequence of living according to the will to power. The more a person relies on dominance, the less they are capable of vulnerability. And without vulnerability, true connection is impossible. The paradox of ruthlessness is that it creates external success while deepening internal emptiness. The person who climbs through manipulation may rise to the top, but when they look around, they will find themselves standing there alone. Schopenhauer's warning was clear. Dominance may secure power, but it rarely secures peace. Schopenhauer believed that true strength does not come from dominance. It comes from detachment. The person who rises through ruthlessness is trapped in an endless cycle of control and defense. But the person who no longer seeks validation through power is free from the game altogether. Power over others, Schopenhauer argued, is an illusion. The only real power is mastery over oneself. The ruthless person lives in constant fear of losing control. They are haunted by the need to maintain dominance, to manipulate outcomes, to guard against threats. Their strength is fragile because it depends on the weakness of others. But the person who lets go of the need for dominance gains something far more powerful: inner stability. When you stop measuring success by external outcomes, you stop being vulnerable to loss. When you stop seeking control over others, you stop fearing failure. Schopenhauer believed that detachment is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. The person who is unaffected by praise or criticism cannot be manipulated. The person who accepts loss without feeling diminished cannot be controlled. The person who no longer needs to dominate others cannot be threatened. This is not surrender. It's transcendence. The person who no longer seeks validation or control becomes truly untouchable. To transcend the game is not to reject strength. It is to redefine it. Schopenhauer saw wisdom not as the ability to dominate, but as the ability to rise above the need for dominance. The truly powerful person is not the one who holds others down. It's the one who no longer needs to prove themselves. When you detach from the struggle for dominance, you stop being a player in the game. And when you stop playing, you see the game for what it really is, a trap designed to control those who seek power. True strength lies not in winning, but in no longer needing to compete.